Jury, Bill Cosby facing potentially the rest of his life in prison. The defense rests after just 6 minutes, and we're at the courthouse awaiting a verdict. Suing the president, a new lawsuit accusing Donald Trump of violating the Constitution with his foreign business dealings. Will he be forced to turn over his tax returns? Protesting Putin, a wave of rallies across Russia. Demonstrators face down riot police as a prominent Putin critic who issued the call to action is detained. Instant pain relief, new treatment for millions with aching knees. No drugs or surgery. Doctors say it can work better and last longer with fewer side effects. And 49 acts of love. Moms of the 49 lost in Orlando 1 year ago today, turning their grief into action. Nightly News begins right now.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening. It's great to have you with us tonight. Our top story, Bill Cosby's fate is in the hands of a Pennsylvania jury right now, deliberating the verdict in the sexual assault case against him after Cosby's lawyers abruptly ended their case after just 6 minutes and one witness. In dueling closing arguments, Cosby was portrayed by the prosecution as someone who posed as a trusted mentor who drugged and sexually assaulted Andrea Constand in 2004. The defense, by contrast, reminding the jury of her inconsistent statements. NBC's Stephanie Gosk has details.
For the first time since the trial began, Bill Cosby arrived at the courthouse with his wife of more than 50 years.
She came in holding his hand. You got to see her. It wasn't a show. It was real. It was real love.
It took the defense 6 minutes to present its case, just one witness. Lead defense attorney Brian McMonagle then delivered a dramatic closing, from folksy and low-key to shouting, "Stop this," repeatedly.
Can a powerful close decide a case?
It can win a case for a defense attorney by injecting reasonable doubt, by connecting the dots.
McMonagle highlighted inconsistencies in Andrea Constand's story, arguing her relationship with Cosby was romantic, and what happened the night Constand says she was drugged and assaulted was instead consensual. At one point yelling at the jury, "You know why you are here. Let's be real, right? We are here because of them." McMonagle pointed to a group of women in the audience who have accused Cosby of sexual misconduct, suggesting this trial is more about them and the dozens of others who have come forward. The comedian denies all of their accusations.
Justice for Andrea is justice for not only all of us 60 women, for all of the other women that have not found their voice.
In the prosecution's close, District Attorney Kevin Steele told the jury Andrea Constand's own words are enough to convict. But he also focused on Cosby's words during a civil deposition and a statement to police over a decade ago. There is no ability to get around what came out of the defendant's mouth, Steele told them, including an admission he gave Constand pills and engaged in sexual contact. As for the idea that there was romance the night of the incident, Steele asked, "This is romantic? You should be insulted by that. It's criminal."
Each of the 3 counts carries a maximum sentence of 10 years. For a 79-year-old man that is not in good health, that could mean the rest of his life in prison. Lester?
Stephanie Gosk in Pennsylvania tonight. Thank you. Less than a week after fired FBI Director James Comey testified, all eyes will be on the Senate Intelligence Committee once again tomorrow as Attorney General Jeff Sessions gets his turn to testify in public regarding the Russia investigation. NBC's Peter Alexander has the latest.
Washington spending.
President Trump face-to-face with Jeff Sessions.
It's great to be here.
The Attorney General now preparing to break his silence on Russia, testifying in public before congressional investigators tomorrow, just days after James Comey addressed potential conflicts about Sessions' role in the controversy.
We also were aware of facts that I can't discuss in an open setting that would make his continued engagement in a Russia-related investigation problematic.
Will the White House invoke executive privilege?
It depends on the scope of the questions, and it would be to get into a hypothetical at this point would be premature.
Sessions is likely to face bruising questions about his initial failure to disclose 2 meetings with the Russian ambassador and the possibility of a third that aides vigorously deny.
When Sessions failed to disclose with the Russians, was it an honest mistake or was it part of a cover-up?
Unfazed at his first full cabinet meeting, the president touting this claim.
We've been about as active as you can possibly be and at a just about record-setting pace.
Then an unusual scene, all the president's men and women showering the commander-in-chief with praise.
I can't thank you enough for the privilege that you've given me.
I want to thank you for getting this country moving.
We thank you for the opportunity and the blessing that you've given us to serve your agenda and the American people.
The Senate's top Democrat on Twitter mocking the moment.
Lucy, how'd we do on the Sunday show yesterday?
Your tone was perfect. You were right on message.
Michelle, how'd my hair look coming out of the gym this morning?
You have great hair.
Still hanging over the White House, the president's suggestion he has secret tapes of his conversations with Comey, who he accused of lying under oath. But tonight, despite bipartisan calls he come clean, no timetable for an answer. And tonight, on the eve of Jeff Sessions' testimony, the Senate Intelligence Committee remains huddled behind closed doors. It comes hours after two congressional aides tell NBC News that they met confidentially with the former head of Homeland Security, Jeh Johnson, as the committee examines the role Russia played in last year's election. Lester?
All right, Peter Alexander at the White House, thank you. The president also facing new legal challenges tonight. His continued business dealings have prompted a new lawsuit accusing him of conflicts of interest and violating the Constitution. Our justice correspondent Pete Williams has those details.
Adding new legal firepower to challenge President Trump's worldwide business holdings, Maryland and the District of Columbia say he's violating the Constitution's ban on public officials receiving presents or payments from foreign sources. Those provisions are walls, their suit says, against presidential corruption.
And the one thing we know about President Trump is he understands the value of walls. This is one he can't climb over, and it's one he can't dig underneath.
The lawsuit, filed by two Democratic attorneys general, says Mr. Trump markets his properties as president and benefits from payments by foreign countries for space in Trump Tower and for holding events and staying at his Washington hotel to seek his favor. Too much of a conflict, they say, when he makes decisions about U.S. foreign policy. And they say he never put his businesses in a blind trust. But in a filing last week in a related case, the Justice Department says the Constitution only blocks a president from accepting a gift for personally performing some service for a foreign country. Easily the richest president in modern times, his business ties raise a legal question that hasn't come up before, and the lawsuit faces long odds. But legal experts say even if today's lawsuit doesn't ultimately succeed, it could force the president to turn over revealing financial records.
And request number one will be his tax returns to see if there's any basis behind these allegations that they're made. That could be very significant.
The White House calls this lawsuit partisan politics. Also tonight, another appeals court has ruled that the Trump executive order restricting travel from 6 Muslim countries is illegal. Soon the Supreme Court will decide whether it will take the case and whether the government can begin enforcing the travel ban while it's on appeal here. Lester?
Pete Williams at the Supreme Court tonight. Thank you. In Russia today, a wave of protests erupting across the country against Vladimir Putin in over 100 cities and towns. Some of the largest anti-government demonstrations in years. Up to 1,000 people were detained, including a prominent Putin critic who issued the call to action. Our chief foreign correspondent, Richard Engel, is there.
They showed up just a few hundred yards from the Kremlin and in cities nationwide with one message: to show dissatisfaction with Russia's president.
This is what happens when you try to demonstrate against Vladimir Putin in today's Russia. These demonstrators had come out. They've been denouncing Putin, calling him a criminal. Now the riot police are pushing them back. They are making it very, very clear that this demonstration is not going to be tolerated.
The flash mobs answered a call on social media from opposition leader Alexei Navalny.
Against support my country, and Navalny is the only option.
But Navalny never made it. Arrested outside his home, tonight sentenced to 30 days in jail. Navalny's rallying cry is anti-corruption. He has a hugely popular YouTube show designed to show the fabulous wealth of Kremlin insiders. But Navalny has been banned from running for president here because of corruption charges against him, which he says are trumped up. In many ways, Navalny is the last prominent critic standing. Boris Nemtsov, shot dead near the Kremlin. Journalist Anna Politkovskaya, shot dead in her elevator. Activist Vladimir Karamurza, poisoned twice. but survived. Tonight on Russian state TV, the top story was Putin showing students his office. No mention of the unrest or of Navalny. Richard Engel, NBC News, Moscow.
In this country, a fraternity ritual that turned deadly was relived today in a courtroom where a group of Penn State students faced a preliminary hearing in the alleged hazing death of a new recruit. NBC's Kristen Dahlgren was there.
16 of the 18 fraternity brothers facing various charges related to the alcohol-fueled death of 20-year-old Timothy Piazza heading to court this morning for an emotional and often fiery hearing. Video footage from Beta Theta Pi fraternity house shown publicly for the first time recorded the night Piazza died after alleged hazing and drinking. Piazza is seen falling multiple times, fraternity brothers throwing things at him, even trying to dress him before calling 911 12 hours after his first fall.
We have a friend who is unconscious.
Also in the courtroom, Timothy Piazza's parents, for the first time coming face to face with most of the accused. They spoke to Matt Lauer last month.
This was men who intended to force feed lethal amounts of alcohol into other young men.
Today, Piazza's father teared up and rocked in his seat as lead detective David Chickatano said Timothy looked dead. He looked like a corpse. Piazza's parents left the courtroom before the video played.
They want to remember their son as the bright, young, handsome man who he was.
Penn State disbanded the fraternity chapter and created a board to oversee changes in the school's Greek system. Charges for the 18 range from involuntary manslaughter to tampering with evidence. William Brennan represents Joseph Ems, charged with reckless endangerment.
I can't say enough. It is just an unspeakable, horrific, sad, tragic event. But for Joey Ems, it's not a criminal. It's not a criminal case, in my opinion.
Kristen Dahlgren, NBC News, Bellefonte, Pennsylvania.
The next congressman from Montana, Greg Gianforte, has avoided jail time after pleading guilty to assaulting a reporter the day before he was elected. Gianforte had previously written a letter apologizing to Guardian reporter Ben Jacobs for attacking him as Jacobs tried to ask him a question back in May. That infamous encounter caught on audio tape. Instead of jail, he was sentenced to 40 hours of community service, 20 hours of anger management counseling, and a $385 fine. He's expected to be sworn in later this month. It's not summer yet, but it certainly feels like it across much of the country. Millions baking in a heat wave. Temperatures in the 90s from New York to Chicago. The Northeast will start to cool a bit on Wednesday, but the above-average highs continue in the Midwest through the end of the week. Stay hydrated and get in that air conditioning as much as possible. Tributes today in Orlando on the first anniversary of the deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history. 49 people died when a gunman opened fire at a nightclub. And some mothers of the victims have found a way to start moving beyond their grief and help others in the process. NBC's Gabe Gutierrez has their story tonight.
Never have these church bells tolled for so long. 49 times for 49 lives. Lost when a gunman opened fire at the Pulse nightclub.
There's no moment I don't think of my daughter. And when I'm driving, when I wake up, when I go to bed, when I eat, everything.
Myra Alvear's daughter, Amanda, was on the dance floor Snapchatting. Then that horrible sound.
I wanted her to be remembered as love, pure love.
At first, grief consumed her until a realization.
You know, that grief, what good it's gonna do? That grief, I have to turn it into something positive. We cannot live with grief.
On that awful night, 49 lives were stolen by an act of hate. So Myra and other mothers of the victims came up with 49 acts of love for this June 12th.
They go from as simple as smiling at 49 times that day at strangers.
In Orlando today, beyond the public tributes, volunteers brought breakfast to first responders.
Thank you guys very much. We appreciate it.
They sorted 49,000 pounds of produce at a local food bank. And they hugged. Oh, did they hug.
We're here for you.
Something Myra's been doing all year with complete strangers.
Yes. She doesn't believe me.
On this somber anniversary.
Through this tragedy, great things can happen. The world needs love. The world needs unity.
49 is much more than a number. It is now a purpose. Gabe Gutierrez.